The gun pressed against Emma Smith's spine felt cold even through her blazer. She didn't stop translating. Korean flowed from her lips to the man across the table, Sung-hoon Baek, Manhattan's feared mob boss, while Mandarin whispered death threats into her ear from the Chinese triad leader beside her. But they made one mistake. They assumed she only spoke 2 languages. The triad leader smiled, leaning back in his chair, and said something in Mandarin that made Emma's blood freeze. "Your mother dies before I agree to peace." He thought no one else understood. He was wrong. Emma had 3 seconds to decide: translate honestly and watch a man die, or lie and become a target herself. Her mouth opened. The wrong words came out, and everything exploded. Earlier that evening, the restaurant was too quiet for Manhattan. Emma sat at a corner table in a private room of Joe's Palace, an upscale Chinese restaurant in Midtown where the walls were soundproofed and the security cameras didn't look like they worked. She recognized the setup immediately. This wasn't a business meeting. This was a negotiation between monsters. On her left sat Wei Chen, leader of the Dragon Head Triad, flanked by 3 men whose suits couldn't quite hide the weapons underneath. On her right sat Sung-hoon Baek, the Korean kingpin who controlled everything from Koreatown to the Diamond District with only 1 bodyguard, a man introduced as Brian. Emma was 28 years old, fluent in English, Korean, and 4 other languages, and she worked translator jobs to pay for her brother Marcus's college tuition and her mother's medical bills in the Bronx. She needed this $1,000 gig. She didn't need to know what they were actually discussing. But she wasn't stupid. Sung-hoon spoke first, his voice smooth, controlled, dangerous. "We've operated in parallel for 5 years. There's enough of New York for both organizations. I'm proposing official boundaries. Peace." Emma translated into Mandarin. Wei smiled, nodded, responded. Emma translated back into Korean. "Mr. Wei appreciates your proposal and agrees that conflict benefits neither party." But something felt wrong. Wei's body language didn't match his words. His fingers drummed the table. His smile never reached his eyes. His men kept glancing at the door. Emma's stomach twisted. She'd grown up in the Bronx. She knew what a setup looked like. Sung-hoon continued, "My operations stay north of Canal Street. Yours stay south. We share port access. No more territory disputes." Wei responded in Mandarin, his tone pleasant, agreeable. Emma opened her mouth to translate, then stopped. What Wei actually said was, "Tell this Korean dog that when I want something, I take it. His territory, his ports, his life." Emma's heart slammed against her ribs. Wei wasn't negotiating. He was stalling. She glanced toward the restaurant entrance. Through the frosted glass partition, she saw shadows moving. Too many shadows. Men taking positions. This was an ambush. Wei said something else in, "Hold up. Before we get into this unbelievably messy story, I need one tiny favor. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Show some support for your girl. I'll really appreciate it." "All right. Thank you. Let's jump back in." Mandarin, still smiling. "And tell him his mother will die screaming before I let him leave this restaurant alive." He assumed no one else at the table spoke Mandarin. He was wrong. Emma's hands shook beneath the table. If she translated honestly, Wei would know she understood. If she stayed silent, Sung-hoon would walk into a massacre. Her mother's face flashed in her mind. Marcus's tuition bill. Their rent. But then she looked at Sung-hoon Baek. He was young, mid-30s maybe, sharp jaw, dark eyes that missed nothing, expensive suit that fit like it was made for him. He sat perfectly still, radiating controlled power, a man who'd built an empire before 40. And he was about to die because he didn't know what Wei really said. Emma made her choice. She leaned forward, her voice steady in Korean. Mr. Beck, Mr. Wei says he respects your proposal, but he's lying. He just said he's taking everything. Your territory, your ports, your life. And there are armed men moving into position outside this room right now. You have maybe 30 seconds. The room went silent. Sung-hoon's eyes snapped to her face, sharp and assessing. Wei's smile vanished. What did you just say? Brian, Sung-hoon's bodyguard, went rigid. Sung-hoon spoke in rapid Korean, his voice deadly calm. How many men? Emma's voice didn't shake. At least 8. Maybe more. Armed? Yes. Exits? Kitchen door behind you, 10 feet. Sung-hoon stood in one fluid motion, his hand inside his jacket. Wei shouted in Mandarin, Now! The frosted glass partition exploded inward. Gunfire erupted. Emma hit the floor as bullets shredded the wall behind where her head had been. Glass rained down. Someone screamed. The table overturned with a crash. Sung-hoon grabbed her wrist and yanked her toward the kitchen door. Brian returned fire, covering their escape. Wei's men flooded into the room, weapons raised. Emma's ears rang. Her vision blurred, but Sung-hoon's grip was iron, pulling her through the kitchen, past terrified cooks, through the back alley where a black Mercedes waited with the engine running. He shoved her into the back seat and climbed in after her. Brian dove into the driver's seat. Tires squealed as they shot into traffic. Behind them, muzzle flashes lit up the alley. A bullet spider-webbed the rear window but didn't penetrate. Emma couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Her hands were shaking so badly she couldn't control them. Sung-hoon was on his phone, speaking rapid Korean. Code red. Wei's made his move. Get my mother to the safe house, now. Yes, Connecticut, full security detail. No one in or out. He ended the call and then turned to Emma. His eyes were black fire. You just saved my life, he said in perfect English. And signed your own death warrant. Emma's apartment building in the Bronx looked exactly the same. Peeling paint. Broken elevator. Graffiti on the walls. But everything had changed. Sung-hoon's men had swept her building in under 10 minutes. 2 teams, professional, thorough, terrifying. Emma stood in her living room as she couldn't stop shaking. Pack a bag, Sung-hoon said behind her. You have 5 minutes. Emma whirled on him. Excuse me? He stood in her tiny living room like a panther in a shoebox. Too large, too dangerous, too out of place among her thrift store furniture and Marcus's basketball trophies on the shelf. Wei saw your face, Sung-hoon said, his voice matter of fact. He knows you warned me. He knows you speak Mandarin. He's putting a price on your head right now. You can't stay here. This is my home. This is a coffin. Emma's hands clenched into fists. I have a job, a life. My mother... Your mother is already in protective custody. My men moved her 20 minutes ago. The words hit Emma like a slap. You what? Wei will use her to get to you. She's safer with me. Sung-hoon stepped closer, his eyes intense. You saved my mother's life tonight, Miss Smith. That translation error you caught? Wei's men were already moving on her apartment when you gave me that warning. I got her out in time because of you, so now I'm returning the favor. Your mother is safe, your brother is being watched, and you're coming with me. This isn't a negotiation. Like hell it isn't. Emma got in his face, fury overwhelming fear. You don't get to just kidnap me because... I'm not kidnapping you. I'm saving your life. By dragging me into your world? Making me part of this? Something flickered in Sung-hoon's eyes. Respect, maybe, or surprise that she was yelling at him when most people cowered. You made yourself part of this the moment you opened your mouth at that table, he said quietly. I didn't ask you to warn me. You chose that. And now Wei won't stop until you're dead. So your options are, come with me and live, or stay here and die. Choose. Emma wanted to scream, to throw something, to rewind the last 2 hours and take that stupid translation job and keep her mouth shut. But she looked around her apartment, at Marcus's college acceptance letter on the fridge, at the photo of her father who'd died when she was 12, at the life she'd built from nothing. And she knew Sung-hoon was right. 5 minutes, she whispered. 3 now. Emma packed. Sung-hoon's penthouse occupied the top floor of a luxury building in Tribeca with views of the Hudson River that probably cost more than Emma's entire neighborhood. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, art that looked expensive, everything in shades of black, white, and gray. It felt like a museum or a prison. Emma stood at the window watching the city lights blur through her tears. She'd called her mother from the car, heard the fear in her voice, the confusion, the desperate assurance that she was okay, that the men protecting her seemed professional. It didn't help. Nothing helped. "There's a guest room down the hall," Sung-hoon said behind her. "Bathrooms are stocked. Security code for the elevator is—" "How long?" Emma cut him off, not turning around. "How long what? How long do I have to hide? Days? Weeks? Forever?" Silence. Then, "I don't know." Emma laughed, sharp and bitter. "You don't know? Perfect. That's just perfect." She whirled on him, fury erupting. "I had a life, Mr. Baek, a real life. I worked 3 jobs to pay for my brother's college. I took care of my mother. I had plans, dreams, a future. And now what? I'm your prisoner because I made the mistake of trying to save your life? You're not my prisoner. Then I can leave?" His jaw clenched. "No. Then I'm your prisoner." The silence stretched between them, crackling with tension. Sung-hoon stepped closer, his eyes dark and intense. "You want the truth, Miss Smith? Wei-Chen is one of the most dangerous men on the East Coast. He's been trying to take my territory for 3 years. Tonight was supposed to end me. Instead, you warned me I escaped, and now he looks weak." Stupid. Outplayed by a translator. He won't let that stand. He'll come after you with everything he has. Not just to kill you, but to make an example of you. To show what happens when someone interferes with the dragon head triad. Emma's breath caught. "But," Sung-hoon continued, his voice dropping lower, "I don't leave debts unpaid. You saved my life and my mother's life tonight. So until Wei is dealt with, you're under my protection. And I protect what's mine." "I'm not yours." Something flashed in his eyes. Heat. Danger. Something that made Emma's pulse spike. "No," he agreed softly. "You're not. But for now, you're stuck with me anyway." They stood inches apart, the tension between them suddenly shifting. Changing into something Emma didn't want to name. Sung-hoon's gaze dropped to her lips. Emma's breath quickened. Then he stepped back, his expression shuddering. "The guest room is down the hall. Good night, Miss Smith." He walked away, leaving Emma alone with her racing heart and the terrible, impossible awareness that she was attracted to the mob boss who'd just upended her entire life. This was a disaster. Emma couldn't sleep. She'd tried. Lay in the guest room's king-sized bed, stared at the ceiling, counted backwards from 1,000. Nothing worked. Finally, she gave up and padded into the living room in the borrowed t-shirt and sweatpants Sung-hoon's people had provided. She found him on the balcony. He stood at the railing, whiskey glass in one hand, phone in the other, staring at something on the screen. The December wind whipped his hair. He'd changed into dark slacks and a white dress shirt, with the sleeves rolled up, and Emma noticed for the first time the scars on his forearms. Burns, cuts, the map of a violent life. She almost turned back. Then she saw what he was looking at on his phone. A photo of a little boy. Maybe 5 or 6 years old, with Sung-hoon's eyes and a smile that could light up the world, holding up a crayon drawing of what looked like a superhero. Emma stepped onto the balcony. Can't sleep either? Sung-hoon didn't startle, didn't look up, just took a drink of whiskey and said, "You should be resting." Should be a lot of things. Emma leaned against the railing beside him, careful to maintain distance. That your son? His thumb moved across the screen, protective, possessive. For a long moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, Ji-woo, he's 6. He's beautiful. He's in danger every day he's connected to me. The raw pain in Sung-hoon's voice made Emma's chest ache. Where is he? She asked softly. Connecticut. A safe house. Hidden. Guarded 24/7. Sung-hoon finally looked at her, and the anguish in his eyes was devastating. I see him twice a month, always in disguise, always watching over my shoulder. He thinks his father is a businessman who travels a lot. He doesn't know I'm a monster. You're not a monster. Sung-hoon laughed, bitter and broken. I've killed men with my own hands, Miss Smith. I run protection rackets, gambling rings, smuggling operations. I've built an empire on fear and violence. What would you call that? Emma was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. I'd call it a man trying to survive in a world he was born into, she said finally. I'd call it a father trying to provide for his son. I'd call it complicated. Complicated? Sung-hoon repeated. Is that what we're calling it now? What happened to his mother? The question hung in the cold air between them. Sung-hoon drained his whiskey, stared out at the city. When he spoke, his voice was hollow. Ji-woo was 3. We were married 2 years, arranged, but we grew to care for each other. She knew what I was, accepted it. Then the triads came for me, and I wasn't home. His hands clenched on the railing. They broke into our apartment. Ji-woo was there. He watched them kill her. Watched them put 3 bullets in her chest while she begged them to let her son go. Jesus, Emma whispered. He hasn't spoken since. Not a word. 3 years of silence. Sung-hoon's voice cracked. I built this empire and I couldn't even give him security. Instead, I built him a cage. He lives in hiding, because being my son makes him a target. I only see him twice a month, because being near me puts him in danger. I'm his father, and I'm the greatest threat to his safety. I'm a monster to my own son. Tears streamed down Emma's face. She reached out and took Sung-hoon's hand. He went rigid, staring at their joined hands like he'd forgotten what comfort felt like. You're not a monster, Emma said fiercely. A monster wouldn't care. A monster wouldn't sacrifice seeing his son to keep him safe. A monster wouldn't carry this guilt. You're just a man in an impossible situation, doing the best you can. Sung-hoon turned to face her fully, his eyes wet, his expression raw and vulnerable in a way Emma suspected few people ever saw. How do you do that? He whispered. Do what? Make me feel human. The space between them evaporated. One moment they were standing apart, the next Emma was in his arms, and Sung-hoon was kissing her like she was oxygen, and he'd been drowning, desperate, hungry, dangerous. His hands tangled in her hair. Her fingers gripped his shirt. The kiss deepened, intensified, became something that felt like falling and flying simultaneously. Then Sung-hoon jerked back, breathing hard, his eyes wild. This is a bad idea, he gasped. Emma's lips were swollen, her pulse hammering. Terrible idea. You're under my protection. We can't. I know. They stared at each other, chests heaving, the taste of whiskey and want still on their lips. Neither moved, neither stepped back. We should go inside, Sung-hoon said. We should. Neither moved. Then Emma made the decision for both of them. She kissed him again. This time, Sung-hoon didn't pull back. The next morning, Emma woke up tangled in Sung-hoon's sheets, his arm heavy across her waist, winter sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. For one perfect moment, she felt safe. Then memory crashed back. Wei, the ambush, her mother in hiding, her life in ruins. And now she'd slept with the mob boss who dragged her into this nightmare. Emma tried to slip out of bed without waking him. Sung-hoon's arm tightened. "Don't run." His voice was rough with sleep. "Please." Emma froze. "This was a mistake." "Probably. You're a criminal." "Definitely. I should hate you." "You should." Sung-hoon opened his eyes, and the vulnerability in them stole Emma's breath. "But I hope you don't. Because last night was the first time in 3 years I've felt anything other than rage and guilt. And I'm selfish enough to want more of that. More of you." Emma's heart cracked open. Before she could respond, Sung-hoon's phone exploded with calls. His expression changed instantly, from vulnerable to deadly. He answered in rapid Korean, his voice sharp, demanding. Then his face went white. "What?" Emma whispered. "What happened?" Sung-hoon ended the call, his hands shaking. When he looked at her, his eyes held terror. "Wei has your mother." The next hour was chaos. Sung-hoon's penthouse filled with men, hard-faced and armed, speaking in rapid Korean. Brian coordinated with contacts, trying to track which direction Wei's people had taken Emma's mother. Emma sat on the couch, numb with shock, while Sung-hoon paced like a caged predator. Then his phone rang again. Wei's voice came through the speaker, smooth and poisonous. "Mr. Beck, I believe I have something you want." Emma heard her mother's terrified breathing in the background. "Don't hurt her," Sung-hoon said, his voice deadly calm. "She's not part of this." "Oh, but she is. Her daughter made her part of this." Wei laughed. "Here's my offer. There's a renegotiation meeting in 3 days. Same location, different terms. Miss Smith will translate. Do this and Mommy goes home. Refuse and Mommy dies screaming. Your choice, Baz, Miss Smith." Emma couldn't breathe. Sung-hoon's eyes met hers across the room, anguished, furious, helpless. 3 days, Wei continued. "Don't disappoint me." The line went dead. "No." Sung-hoon's voice cut through the room like a blade. "Absolutely not." Emma stood, her hands clenched into fists. "That's my mother. And walking into Wei's trap means your death." "I don't care." "I do." Sung-hoon grabbed her shoulders, his eyes blazing. "Listen to me. Wei won't let her go. Even if you do exactly what he wants, he'll kill you both. This is a setup. He's using your mother as bait to get you into position for execution. I won't let that happen." "Then what's your solution?" Emma screamed. "We do nothing while he tortures my mother, while he—" "We find another way. There is no other way." Brian stepped forward. "Boss, I might have something. The triads are spread thin right now. Wei's consolidating power after last night's failure. If we hit them hard, multiple locations simultaneously, we might force a negotiation. Get leverage to trade for Emma's mother." Sung-hoon's jaw clenched. "Start the prep. I want targets identified in 2 hours." Emma watched the tactical discussion unfold, the cold calculation of violence, and something inside her broke. This was what Sung-hoon's life was. This was what he meant when he called himself a monster. Not because he was cruel, but because violence was his first language, his only tool, the water he swam in every day. And her mother was drowning in it. The next day, Emma found Sung-hoon in his office, surrounded by blueprints and photos of triad locations, planning an assault that would leave dozens dead. "Stop," she said quietly. He looked up, exhausted. "Emma, I need to understand something." She moved closer, her eyes searching his face. "What do you actually want? From life? From all of this? What's the end game?" Sung-hoon leaned back in his chair. "To survive. To protect my son. That's not living. That's just not dying. In my world, that's the same thing." Emma sat on the edge of his desk. "Tell me about Jiwoo." Not the danger, not the hiding. Tell me who he is. Sung-hoon's expression softened immediately. He's brilliant, funny. He draws constantly, superheroes mostly. Every picture has a hero saving someone. His voice caught. He's trying to draw me. The father he thinks exists, the good man. You are a good man. I'm the thing he needs saving from. Emma took his hand. Then save him. I don't understand. Walk away. The words hung in the air between them, impossible and terrifying. From all of it. The territory, the empire, the violence. Just walk away. Sung-hoon stared at her like she'd suggested flying to the moon. Walk away from everything my father built? Everything I've bled for? Your father built an empire and died violently at 45, didn't he? Emma's voice was gentle but firm. You're 34. You could have 40 more years. You could watch Ji-woo grow up. You could be there for his first day of school, his graduation, his wedding. You could teach him to drive. Walk him through his first heartbreak. Be his father, not his protector from the shadows. You could have a real life, Emma whispered. Isn't that worth more than territory and power? What kind of man abandons his legacy? The kind who chooses his son over his pride. Sung-hoon stood abruptly, pacing. You don't understand. This organization, it's been in my family for 3 generations. My grandfather started it. My father died building it. Hundreds of people depend on it for their livelihoods. I can't just walk away. Why not? Because... He stopped, struggling. Because it's who I am. No. Emma stood, moving to block his path. It's what you do. It's not who you are. Who you are is the man who cries over pictures of his son. Who you are is the man who kept me safe even though it complicated everything. Who you are is the man terrified he's failing the people he loves. That man could have a different life. Wei would never let me just leave. What if you gave him what he wants? Sung-hoon froze. What? He wants your territory, your operations, your empire. What if you just gave it to him? Everything. Walked away clean. That's insane. Is it? Or is it the first sane thing either of us has considered? Emma moved closer, her eyes locked on his. You negotiate a deal. You hand everything over, territory, contacts, operations, all of it. In exchange, Wei releases my mother. You disappear. Start over somewhere new. Be nobody. Be free. I'd have nothing. You'd have everything that matters. Your son. Your life. A future. Emma's voice cracked. Maybe even me if you wanted that. Sung-hoon pulled her into his arms, his face buried in her hair, his whole body shaking. They stood there, holding each other, while outside the window, New York blazed with lights and possibility and the terrible, beautiful chance of freedom. But the next morning everything shattered. Emma woke to find Sung-hoon already dressed, on the phone, coordinating the assault on Wei's operations. What are you doing? She demanded. He ended the call. What I should have done from the beginning. Ending this with strength, not surrender. You're going to war. I'm protecting what's mine. What's yours? Emma's voice rose. Some territory in Koreatown, some gambling dens and smuggling routes. That's what you're choosing over your son's future? I'm choosing not to be weak, Sung-hoon shouted back. I'm choosing not to let Wei think he can take everything I've built just because... Because why? Because giving it up would hurt your pride? Your reputation? Because walking away makes me a coward. Walking away makes you a father. Emma was screaming now, tears streaming down her face. But you're so obsessed with being feared, with being powerful, with living up to some dead man's legacy that you can't see what you already have. You have a son who needs you. You have a chance at a real life. And you're throwing it away because you're too scared to be anything other than the monster everyone expects. The words landed like blows. Sung-hoon's face went white, then red, then cold. "Get out," he said quietly. "What?" "Get out. Of my office. This is my decision, not yours. Your decision affects my mother's life, and I'll save her my way, not by surrendering everything to the man who wants me dead." Emma stared at him. This man she'd somehow fallen in love with in the span of 72 hours, and saw the bars of his cage clearly for the first time. He was trapped. Not by circumstances, but by his own inability to imagine being anything other than what he'd always been. "You're right," she said softly. "But your decision affects my mother, so it better be a bloody good decision. I won't watch you throw away the chance at happiness because you're too proud to walk away from violence." "Emma, I'm leaving. When this is over, when my mother is safe, I'm taking her and Marcus and disappearing, with or without you, because I deserve more than living in the shadow of your empire. And so does Ji-woo." She walked out. Sung-hoon didn't follow. The assault on Wei's operations was brutal and swift, and Sung-hoon's men hit 5 locations simultaneously: gambling houses, smuggling depots, protection racket headquarters. The message was clear: back off or watch your empire burn. Wei's response was immediate. A photo arrived on Sung-hoon's phone, Emma's mother, bound and gagged, terror in her eyes, and a message: "Surrender, or she dies at midnight tonight." At 6 p.m., Sung-hoon did something he'd never done before. He went to see Ji-woo, in broad daylight, without disguise, breaking every security protocol he'd ever established. The safe house was a modest home in suburban Connecticut, surrounded by guards who melted away when Sung-hoon arrived. Inside, a woman in her 60s looked up from helping Ji-woo with a puzzle. "Sir," she gasped, "you shouldn't be here. It's not safe." "I know." Sung-hoon knelt beside his son. "Hi, Ji-woo?" The boy looked up, his eyes, Sung-hoon's eyes, widening in recognition and confusion. "It's me," Sung-hoon whispered. "It's your dad. The real me. Not in disguise. Just me." Ji-woo's lips trembled. He clutched the puzzle piece in his small hand. Sung-hoon's voice broke. "I'm sorry I haven't been here. I'm sorry you've had to hide. I'm sorry for everything you've been through. But I need you to know something. Everything I've done, every choice I've made, has been to keep you safe, to give you security." Tears streamed down Ji-woo's silent face. "But I was wrong," Sung-hoon continued, "because what you need isn't security. What you need is a father. And I haven't been that. I've been so focused on protecting you from my world that I never gave you what you actually needed. Me. Present. Real. Here." Ji-woo dropped the puzzle piece. His small hands reached out, and for the first time in 3 years, he spoke. "Daddy?" The single word destroyed Sung-hoon. He pulled his son into his arms and sobbed. "Yes," he gasped. "Yes, baby. I'm here. I'm so sorry. I'm here." Ji-woo clung to him, crying, 3 years of silence breaking like a dam, words pouring out. "I missed you. I want to go home. I want to be with you. Please don't leave again. Please." Sung-hoon held his son and made a decision. Later at the docks, midnight. Wei-chun sat at the head of a long table in an abandoned warehouse at the Brooklyn docks, surrounded by 30 armed men. Brian stood beside him, smug and satisfied. The traitor who'd sold out Sung-hoon for a promise of territory and power. Emma's mother sat bound to a chair, terrified but alive. And then Sung-hoon walked in, alone and unarmed, carrying only a briefcase. Wei laughed. "The legendary Sung-hoon Baek, coming crawling. Where's your army?" "I didn't bring one." Sung-hoon's voice was calm. "I'm not here to fight." "Then you're here to die." "I'm here to deal." Sung-hoon opened the briefcase and slid it across the table. Inside were documents, deeds, account numbers, contact lists, territory maps, everything. All of it, Sung-hoon said. Korean town, my protection operations, my gambling houses, my smuggling routes, my port access, my connections in the police department, the city government, the customs office. Everything my father built. Everything I've controlled for 10 years. It's yours. The warehouse went silent. Wei stared at the documents, then at Sung-hoon, then back at the documents. This is a trick. It's not. Sung-hoon's voice was steady. I'm offering you exactly what you want. My complete surrender. My total withdrawal from New York. Take it all. Expand your empire without firing another shot. No war. No losses. Just victory. Brian stepped forward, his face twisted with disgust. You're pathetic. Your father would... My father died alone with a bullet in his head at 45. Sung-hoon cut him off, his voice like steel. He never met his grandson. Never knew what it felt like to tuck his child into bed at night. He built an empire, and it killed him. If that's his legacy, I don't want it. He turned back to Wei. So here's my offer. Take everything. Let Emma's mother go. Let me and Emma leave New York alive. That's the deal. You get the empire, I get a life. Wei leaned back, studying Sung-hoon's face with calculating eyes. You'd really give up everything? For what? A woman you just met? A translator? Sung-hoon's jaw clenched. That translator is the woman I love. And yes, I'd trade every dollar, every territory, every ounce of power I have for the chance to be the man she believes I can be. Love. Wei spat the word like poison. Love makes you weak. Maybe. Or maybe spending every day looking over your shoulder, trusting no one, building walls instead of relationships. Maybe that's weakness. Maybe real strength is knowing when to walk away. Brian's face flushed red, but he had no answer. Sung-hoon turned back to Wei. So what's it going to be? You can kill me right now and start a war with my loyalists that'll cost you millions and dozens of men. My second in command might be standing beside you, but half my organization doesn't know that yet. They're loyal to me. You kill me, you inherit a civil war. He pushed the briefcase closer. Or you can take everything I'm offering. Expand your territory without bloodshed. Consolidate power overnight. Become the undisputed kingpin of New York's underworld. All you have to do is let 3 people disappear into normal life. Wei's fingers drummed on the table. The warehouse was so quiet Emma's mother's breathing sounded loud. 30 seconds passed, then a minute. Finally, Wei smiled, not his usual predatory grin, but something almost respectful. You're either the smartest man I've ever met, Wei said slowly, or the biggest fool. Maybe both, Sung-hoon agreed. Wei stood, walked to Emma's mother, and cut her bonds himself. She goes free in 1 hour. You have 24 hours to leave New York. Take your woman. Disappear. If I ever see you again, if I even hear your name in connection with any criminal enterprise anywhere, the deal's off. Clear? Crystal. Wei extended his hand. Sung-hoon shook it. The empire changed hands with a handshake. Brian stared, disbelief and sudden uncertainty crossing his face. Wait. That's it? He just walks away? He looked back at Sung-hoon. I respect what you're doing. Doesn't mean I like you. Doesn't mean I won't kill you if you break our agreement. But I respect it. Now get out of my city. 20 hours later, Emma stood in Sung-hoon's penthouse, former penthouse, watching the sun rise over the Hudson for the last time. Her mother was safe, sleeping in the guest room, still recovering from her ordeal. Marcus was on a plane from Boston, still confused about what had happened, but safe. Ji-woo was in Connecticut with his nanny, packing his things for a trip he didn't quite understand yet. And Sung-hoon stood beside Emma, looking at the city he'd once ruled. Any regrets? Emma asked softly. Sung-hoon was quiet for a long moment. Then, I keep waiting to feel them. The regret, the loss. But all I feel is lighter. Like I've been carrying a weight for so long, I forgot what it felt like to stand up straight. What did you tell Ji-woo? That we're moving, that he gets to come live with me, that he doesn't have to hide anymore. Sung-hoon's voice cracked. Tears streamed down Emma's face. 6 months later, Portland, Oregon. The house was small, nothing like the Tribeca penthouse, nothing like the life Sung-hoon used to lead. A modest 3-bedroom in a quiet Portland neighborhood with a yard where Ji-woo could play. Nobody knew who they used to be. Nobody cared. Sung-hoon, John now, owned a small import/export consulting firm. Legitimate, boring, legal. He helped small businesses navigate international shipping regulations. He wore khakis. He went to PTA meetings. He coached Ji-woo's soccer team. He was terrible at all of it, and he'd never been happier. Emma ran a thriving translation agency from home, her reputation spreading through Portland's international business community. Marcus had graduated debt-free and taken a job at a tech startup in Seattle, visiting every other weekend. Her mother had her own apartment now, 5 minutes away. Finally healthy, finally safe. But the best part, the part that made everything worth it, was the sound filling the house every morning. Laughter. Ji-woo's laughter. Emma stood in the kitchen doorway, watching Sung-hoon try to flip a pancake. It landed half on the pan, half on the stove. Ji-woo dissolved into giggles. 3 months later, on an ordinary Tuesday morning, Sung-hoon was at the grocery store when he saw the newspaper headline. Gang war erupts in New York. Triad leader Wei Chen killed in ambush. His hands shook as he picked up the paper. Wei was dead. Brian, too. A power vacuum had erupted into violence. The empire Sung-hoon had built, the territory he'd surrendered, was being torn apart in a bloodbath. If he'd stayed, he'd be dead too. Or worse, Ji-woo would be. Sung-hoon bought the paper, drove home, and found Emma in the office. He showed her the headline. Oh my God, she whispered. They stared at it together, the ghost of the life they'd left behind, the bullet they'd dodged, the grave they'd escaped. Then Ji-woo ran into the room, soccer ball under his arm. Dad, you said you'd practice with me, come on! Sung-hoon looked at his son, alive, happy, safe, whole. Then at Emma, his partner, his salvation, his future. Then at the newspaper. He folded it up, threw it in the recycling bin, and smiled. Let's go, buddy, he said, taking Ji-woo's hand. I've got all afternoon. They walked into the backyard together. And Sung-hoon didn't look back. Not once. Because the only empire worth protecting was the one he held in his hand. A little boy's fingers, warm and trusting, holding tight. That was power. That was legacy. That was everything. Thank you for watching till the end. If you enjoyed this story, don't leave without hitting the like button and commenting what you loved about the story. Subscribe if you haven't, and switch your notifications on. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Drop a comment and tell me where in the world you're watching from. We're building a global community of story lovers here, and your voice is part of it. See you in the next one. Have a great day.